I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies.
Welcome to Cookies, the world's most influential basketball podcast. Andrew Quo. It's a hazy day in New York City. You are eating over your own sink. You're done with the holidays. What's happening in your world?
It ain't no hazy day over here. I'm wearing my brand new Knicks 24-25 team tee that our interns came through with this week. Dropped on the site. I feel good. I feel crispy. Finally, we get to see Karl Anthony Towns on one of these classic tees.
Beautiful Goonies tee. Majestic as usual. I was saying hazy because it is the 20th anniversary of Purple Haze. Is that correct?
Cameron's classic album, Purple Haze. That probably
Purple Haze? Was that right?
God, it's been 20 years. I mean, I fucking bought that CD at Kim's Underground. So like, or Mondo Kim's, I forget which one.
Yeah, 20 years ago. 20 years ago, Purple Haze dropped. He is an unk at this point.
Well,
of course.
You're teasing some classic segments here.
I'm nothing if not a classic segment teaser. But I'm saying we now consider Cameron as the unk prototype. But Purple Haze still doesn't feel like an old album in some ways.
Is that?
We know it is.
Right.
We know it is. It's 20 years old, but it doesn't feel old. There is a contemporary element to Cameron. Maybe it's his humor. I don't know.
He's still, well, yes, he's hilarious. He's still, he hasn't gone viral in a minute. Maybe they're taking a break, him and Mace. But he was funny, and weed never felt out of fashion. And when the weed shops went up in New York City, rest in peace, a lot of the visuals and iconography kind of were borrowed from Purple Haze still, right? You had the Bart in the purple Cameron fur, kind of rendered sporadically in different variations. But Cameron hit on a vibe before the vibe.
I've been trying to think of whether there's a specific date for this or not, this concept. For reggae, which is your forte. When I think reggae, I think Quo. I say Bo, Quo. But remember how the reggae set from like the mid 90s just ended up being the classic reggae set forever? It just got trapped in amber, and it's like, it's Sister Nancy, and that will be your classic set forever. There was this moment, I feel like, in New York that separated new rap versus old, and Purple Haze was kind of that vanguard. We know how old it is now, but it was kind of the border between like, oh, you like De La Soul and old school rap, get on that side. You like interesting modern rap, okay, you're riding with Dipset, and then you like Southern rap, and you sort of were more progressive. It was kind of a line in the sand.
And you mentioned reggae because of Killer Cam, that classic song. It's strictly for the dudes. I feel like he made Come Home With Me, and it was just like for the ladies, right? You put that song on, it has a different feel than the Purple Haze songs in a club back in the day. And man, when you mentioned reggae, I'm dating myself, but when I used to DJ with CDJs, I used to have like a few reggae CDs, but they were just like, to your point, just like the regular ass fucking reggae song, right?
Reggae gold.
Yeah, pretty much all the rhythms that everyone knows of that. And then I would just kind of like play these mixed CDs to take a break, to do some Schwartz, maybe to have a Guinness, not to tease, but another segment. Yeah. After I played Killer Cam, I'd play like 6 reggae songs just to give myself a break. And New York City was at such a point where this kind of casual iPod DJing had just started, where reggae party promoters were coming up to me being like, "Would you like a slot on Saturday?" I'm like, "Bro, I just played a mix CD of all the songs."
Like,
Yeah, I just
sir,
no,
you
no.
just dropped 6 mega Bonton songs.
Yeah.
We would like to hire you.
I was like crossing the street the other day and there's a new restaurant called Dumpling Story. Baby Sham. All those Baby Sham memories came rushing back.
It's a dumpling story.
Right. And I don't want to talk 90s rap, but these guys did kill those verses. Cameron was an assassin on the
Not
mic.
90s, 2004, the modern era, Purple Haze. That's the point I'm trying to say. I think
Okay.
it's most distinct, not only for introducing him as this, cult figure that prior to that was kind of a mixtape rapper, skilled, but a mixtape rapper. And
He charted with Come Home With Me.
well, Come Home With Me was the Rockefeller album. I'm talking about that first one where he did like,
Oh.
it was like Horse and Carriage and whatever.
Okay, right,
like
right,
those
right.
first records.
Oh, I thought you were still
Come
talking
Home With
about
Me was
that.
like when he was like Rockefeller. But
Not to
yes,
tease
Purple
another
Haze.
segment. Right.
Purple Haze was different from
Yeah. Well, I was
and
right.
but I'm saying it was the introduction of like a style and character in rap that wasn't necessarily there before.
Was it the introduction of a New York character that was an assassin?
He was a rapper from Harlem, and
He was the first assassin.
he was an assassin.
Right.
But also though, he was a genuine weirdo. Not that we need to sit here and
Trying to segue this.
memorialize.
Yeah.
And no, you're doing a great job.
Apparently not.
I just think like I want to talk about rap weirdos for a second. I'm not trying to talk about 90s.
Okay,
rap.
I'm trying to get to assassins here.
No, we're getting to assassins.
A different kind of assassin.
A different kind of assassin. I would just think like the rap weirdos, Ghostface, Cameron, Doom. That was sort of like the trio of that era.
Dr. Octagon. He was kind of a more fringe. He didn't really. But Doom was fringe as well. And Doom was later than those guys a little bit.
Well, his popularity. I mean, we talked about him in the past. Anyway, I was just like, that was like the wordy weirdo crew that, like, as a rap nerd, I liked.
Yeah.
Who didn't like him? Everyone liked him. Everyone liked Cameron, Ghostface, and Doom. That again. They were like the weird, like, New York rappers.
I told you I took a few pictures of the MF Doom mural on Broadway in Brooklyn to send to you, but I forgot. New York City.
Thank you.
New York City does a good job with MF Doom. I don't think that he was not appreciated in his time. I remember Mad Villain when that album came out. People were lining up for those compact discs.
My understanding is that he sadly died of natural causes. Unlike another one of your heroes who died sadly when an assassin, a healthcare critic who was also an assassin, felled him in the streets of Midtown. And this has been a sad story in the news for a week. Everyone is publicly grieving the loss of the what's the healthcare? United Healthcare.
Yeah. I mean, he was on his way to a board meeting, I believe. Brian Thompson. It was like 6:30 a.m. He was on his way somewhere, and there's a lot of conspiracy theories as to why he was alone, why he was up that early, and the details are kind of trickling out thanks to New York's finest. But it was some sort of pistol that jammed the assassin, and he shot him 3 times, I believe. And yeah, it is he a hero or not? This is the debate. I mean, a young man-ish, a middle-aged man with a family, a prominent role in society. I believe United Healthcare is a top 10 grossing for-profit company in America, which is fucking crazy. But anyway, it's
The good guys.
Yeah, it's right there with Coca-Cola and I don't know, Apple, whatever the top 10 for-profit companies are. And he was a very wealthy man.
Cookies Hoops
Cookies
is
Hoop.
definitely up there.
Interns, get back in the cage. Back. Go. Go to where you came from.
What do you mean we're number 7?
Yeah. So the debate is, well, first, this guy became a folk hero immediately, right? Like Ben Shapiro tried to be like, the left is crazy for celebrating this killer's actions, and the right, his followers were like, no, we're all into this. We're all very into this. And there are teachers' pets like myself who are like, it sucks to celebrate a man's death in cold blood, but it's kind of amazing too.
However, I'll say this. I think we have been highly desensitized to violence over the last year. And the idea of being outraged by this, which I think was kind of the first response from mainstream media, like, oh my God, I can't believe this would happen. And everyone's just like,
it's decorum. It's decorum. They have to.
Totally. And I'm like, after the stuff we've seen over the last year, like just visually, graphically, on a repeated basis, the lack of horror at seeing a guy get shot, I'm like, this is actually very non-graphic compared to the kind of stuff we've been watching.
Watching a young man get strangled for a Lucy.
Well, I mean, seeing kids with like their skull cracked open. I just like insanely graphic, violent stuff. Like this is a pretty clean kill. This is just, walked up, clipped him, kept it moving. I guess what I'm trying to get to is it does not make sense to me that we would be horrified by this.
I mean,
regardless of whether he's a folk hero or not, the context of what we have been subjected to, I feel like it'd be very difficult to be upset by this.
I mean, I agree, but also we cannot be absolved of our own decorum just because stuff is there for us to watch. Like I get like faces of death shit on my Twitter feed now. I try to block it all. It's like unfortunate accidents of some dude in Indonesia getting run over by a truck. Sure. And I'm like, God fucking damn it,
Yeah, what's the deal with that? Twitter just keeps kind of putting like snuff films in. I'm talking, more about like the footage from Gaza, which is like you're watching this intentionally, even if it's horrible because you're seeing what's happening.
And before that, Ukraine, right? The drones in Ukraine.
But I'm getting to your point is like, and then you'll be on Twitter and be like, wait, this is just a guy getting hit by a car. Why are you putting it on my feed? I'm not interested in watching person get, it's like literally just watching people die. Like, why is this getting?
Because it gets millions of views, right? Like when Brian Thompson was gunned down in these streets, I got so many feed or posts of people being like, here's the top 10 recorded deaths. And like, it's like Lee Harvey Oswald, some child molester getting shot by the father of the victim that always goes around in the 70s or 80s.
Oh, the one from like a courtroom, right?
He's walking into a courtroom and I'm like, I just fucking hate this shit. But, you look at the interactions, they're like, right. Like the bots are just doing this at this point. And like the footage of the United Healthcare victim was like, felt like a vignette in Law and Order or an edit in Law and Order being like, well, D'Onofrio's looking at this footage and it's like grainy street stuff. But I don't know if I'm allowed to laugh or not laugh at jokes about this murder, but I do. And like, I don't know.
I'm going to say that you are allowed to.
Sure. I mean, I'm not stopping myself from looking at these jokes. I'm not blocking people who are making hilarious jokes about this, but I don't feel good about it. And I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm a better person than I was if I didn't allow myself to like search content off of this. But like, I am what I am, man. And I'm just Julius Randle trying my best out here.
I am not advocating violence per se, but I would also argue that for whatever side of the political spectrum you're on, there is a disconnect between what the government is doing and what people want. And I understand the inclination towards violence as a political tool because it's been one forever, like literally since the beginning of time.
It's a tradition of the world.
Yeah. So when people celebrate a objectively bad part of society, like, this guy, I don't know him. He had a basketball hoop in his house. He couldn't be all bad, but he also had a trampoline in front of it. So he might not be that great. There was a ping pong table that was kind of obscuring part of the basketball court.
King shit.
So, but was he really getting buckets? I don't know. And I can't say.
Free Young Thug, unless he did something I really hate. But free Young Thug.
I just look at this guy and you're like, look, was he the evil system? Did he create it? No. This guy did not create that. But he was a willing participant. He was a powerful component to it. So to cheer his death, knowing that how fucked up our system is, makes a lot of sense to me. Makes total sense to me.
There was a rumor going around that he hired a hitman to do this, because he, for whatever reason, wanted the insurance money for his family. That's one conspiracy theory, because what's a dude walking around worth that much money with that much power alone on the streets in New York City like that? Because at this point, CEOs of companies that big are politicians, right? Like, they influence policy in such a way that it affects like our daily lives, and there's anger and there's opinions and there's craziness and there's violence. So like, if you're the CEO of Amazon, Apple, or Tesla, you probably have a bodyguard around you, as like LeBron James might. But these guys are actually like political people who do good and bad depending on the person. So like, what was he doing alone?
Well, I would disagree with part of that,
Mm-hmm.
because someone like LeBron James is really visible. People know who he is, and even as you said, someone like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, like they are so famous that they absolutely travel around with security.
Yeah,
that's true.
Why not?
But I would say someone like him, and this is kind of the insidiousness in some ways of the CEO. And as you were saying, they are like politicians. They wield this power, and they're giving, countless tens of millions of dollars to politicians to, subvert public policy. Their companies are literally responsible for killing people in some cases, or denying people health benefits, bankrupting people, and they're still anonymous for the most part. That's what I was going to say. It's like, yes, there are certain ones who aren't, Zuck and so on. But a lot of these guys, like him, if he walked into your living room and you didn't know who he was, you're like, it's just some dude in a quarter zip, like whatever. They can walk around without any issue. That guy walks into Max Fish and says, "Hey, I'm looking for the DL." You're not like, "Oh my God, the CEO of United Health just walked in here and it's Larry Sanders."
This motherfucker just jumped over a Kia to ask me that question.
I guess what I'm saying is these guys do have a remarkable amount of anonymity and freedom, despite, as you said, the amount of power that they have within our country on both like an economic and political, social way of really affecting people's lives.
If I was getting an order of veggie lo mein in Chat Square and Larry Fink pulls up next to me, I'm just like, this lovely man just enjoys a nice wok fried noodle. He is not the most evil, most powerful man in America, over Donald Trump, over everything. BlackRock owns everything, and it's like,
this is simply a dumpling story.
Yeah. I mean, I would recognize a dusty, unked out baby sham over Larry Fink any day.
I remember many years ago, I had to take the Series 7, which is like a financial test.
Mm-hmm.
I have forgotten every possible component of that test. But I went in and there's an office that you went to. They just offered testing around the clock. It wasn't like, oh, you're here for this in a room of people. You just take it on your own time. But, it's basically a room that you take tests at. And if you wanted any kind of financial certification, that's where you went. There's only 2 of us in there, like people other than like sort of proctors or whatever, the people who'd watch it. And there was this older guy, it's like, fiddling with a locker. And he like couldn't open the locker. It's like, all right, you geezer. I went over there and like fiddled the locker so he could put his stuff in there because you had to put your possessions in a locker, during the test. He leaves and the guy in there's like, do you know who that was? I'm like, no. He's like, that was George Soros. I was like, oh, him? They're like, yeah. The dude was like, you probably should have asked him for a job. I was like, yeah, I guess so.
I mean,
didn't recognize him.
Yeah, and
the guy couldn't open a locker, Andrew. How much clout could he have? How much power did this man have?
And the assassin
because of woke. Sorry.
The assassin is banking on this, right? Because there's been footage released of him smiling, looking like Anne Hathaway in a hoodie. And they found his bag full of Monopoly money. Hilarious. And they say the gun might be even like homemade. He wrote inscriptions on the bullets. Like he is turning into a certain kind of folk hero, like a Robin Hood, a murderous Robin Hood. Robin Hood murdered people, right? In the Robin Hood book and movies, did Kevin Costner like get someone with an arrow? Yes, right?
Well, the Robin Hood of Sherwood Forest. You mean?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that guy he was notable as an archer.
He's got a body count, and I'm not talking about fucking. He actually killed people, right?
I'm sure.
And probably the other thing too. But like, so throughout history, we celebrate characters like Robin Hood. So yeah, I should not be clutching my teacher's pet pearls about this. It's like, this is kind of a folk story. It's become like he absconded into the woods, Central Park. He left
like
misdirection.
Robin Hood.
This is what I mean.
Sherwood Forest.
This is what I'm getting at. This is a Disney ass story. This is for the family, man. Where is he hiding out? Because if he pulled up next to you at Chrissy's Pizza, would you be like, yo, are you the assassin? He's got a shaved head now, right? He's wearing wallabies. Nick shorts.
I've talked to girls. They're just like, yeah, like I definitely want to like have sex with the assassin.
Right. This is sort of like firefighters during like 9/11. Like I knew some of my friends who were like, I want to go pick up a fireman. I'm like, okay, but we're like 2 weeks out of this disaster. Like, what are they doing at the bar? Like,
You're like, also they're thieves.
Well, maybe they're Robin Hood thieves. They're princes of thieves. I don't know.
That's true. Yeah, you don't want to dig in too much into the lore of things. Like, I was thinking about one of our favorite beloved cartoon characters, Foghorn Leghorn, the other day. I was just thinking about Foghorn Leghorn. It's like, what name is Foghorn? It's not even a name, man. Foghorn? We've just been calling this guy Foghorn for years. And I don't want to dig into it, though, Andrew, because you know what'll happen.
Oh, no.
Go on to Wikipedia. They'll go on to Wikipedia and be like, oh, what's the deal with Foghorn Leghorn? They'll be like, oh, that was a rough caricature of Elmore Leghorn, Confederate general, the squaw strangler of Natchez. You're like, oh, fuck. You just ruined Foghorn Leghorn for me.
His name was Charles Smith Leghorn, but he was so horny and his memory was so hazy. So we called him Foghorn. He's named after Keith Van Horn.
That's what I mean. You don't want to get too deep into the lore of these guys. But back to our favorite assassin.
What do we call him?
Assassin. Is he just the CEO assassin? Is that kind of what we've settled on for shorthand?
I mean, that's fine. I know exactly who you're talking about, but it's not super funny. I don't have any bullets in my chamber here. I don't have inscribed bullets with good nicknames here.
Yeah, he needs a little bit better name to be really put into lore. Because yeah, CEO killer, CEO assassin, we get it. We understand the appeal is inherent in that name, but it doesn't feel like he's going to strike again, which is what we need.
Yeah. The crazy.
I'm with. Sorry, I was only going to
Yeah.
bring back to you the point you made before. Like, if it turns out that he was like hired by this guy to kill him as like suicide by assassin, or it was like by his wife,
Right.
whatever, takes the steam out of this story. And if you were going to kill him, you would of course add these elements of lore, because there are millions and millions of people with really good motives to snipe the guy.
I have been extremely lucky in my life and extremely unlucky. I have had to deal with insurance companies like for too much of my life. Like through the bad shit that you have to go through emotionally, logistically, mechanically, then you got to fight with the insurance company for 2 years afterwards. It's fucking crazy. And now I have a family. It's amazing. Getting us insurance has been an uphill battle. And it's like, well, you can't really do that because you're not covered. I'm like, my kid's really sick. Can I do this? And they're like, we got to check on your insurance. It feels like I'm going insane. I'm like, this is America. I have money, enough money to get my kid into an ER room or a doctor's office, thankfully, but I can't do it because of some logistical snafu. I'm like,
Which is all, of course, intentional.
fuck these guys, you know? It's just like,
So, Andrew, where were you last week? Because I did notice a pair of Nick's shorts were found at the crime scene.
it's funny because I was that photo taken of someone who wasn't me of that coat. You don't notice how short the arms are. The legs are of
Yeah,
normal length, but
do you
the arms are really
do you still
short.
have your nose extender? I remember you used to wear this nose extender around a lot. Gave you a different shape, more of a ski slope to your nose. I was just wondering if you still had that.
Yeah, I mean, kind of changed the complexion. I have to wear moisturizer in the winter and changes the tone of my face. My whole style changes up. I take off my Nick's cookies tees and put on like some drab, maybe military esque attire. Um, what's up with the cops being like, we're looking for this person. Here's 2 photos, and the 2 photos not matching up.
I feel
What?
like that's not his jacket. It's a different jacket.
He's. Are we gonna argue about the color of those backpack straps? Because we done that on the internet, but those are 2 different colors and 2 different shapes.
I like the guy who's like, all right, I'm a tech dweeb. I've been following the city bikes. I'm scraping the data, and I snitched. And everyone's like, you are a rat, sir. And they're like, you're also wrong, which was kind
And
of like, it's not a city bike. I'm like, shit, I outed myself as a data scraping rat on the internet.
I mean,
I'm being subjected to rampant abuse, and I didn't even solve this crime. You're a bad snitch. I mean, look, I prefer a bad snitch to a good snitch, but still.
our buddy YC kind of was the first one on my feed who cracked the case. He was like, "Yo, the dude who's been tracking the city bike data is the dude in the coffee shop photo. Insane. Like it.
I like that. Yeah.
We gotta take control of the sleuthing. Us and Joel Embiid are the snitch hunters. We need to find out who's snitching and where is the assassin now? Is he slinging pies at Chrissy's Pizza in Greenpoint, or is he like far away in Barbados?
My assumption would be that he was on a flight within like 2 hours.
He was playing so fast and loose, though. Do you think he's just like, fuck you? I'm making a hot boy at Scars.
Give me a little that Mike's hot honey. I mean, I felt like there was enough planning on this, and what you said, where if it was an inside job, it's like, well, if you're gonna do this, you're gonna shoot me this morning. I'll be myself on the street. We need it on camera. This is why I don't really buy it, though. This theory.
Oh, you're the
There were
snitch
so
hunter
many
now.
places you could have shot this guy. To do it in New York with all these cameras, it really jeopardizes your chances of getting away as a hired killer, even if you're being hired by the guy himself. Like, shoot
But
me on
he,
my doorstep, man. Come to my house, shoot me on my doorstep.
but he's got a shift at Scar's Pizza at 10:30 a.m. He can't like travel and then come back. He needs an alibi.
I just feel like choosing Midtown Manhattan as a place to pull off this insurance scam execution. I mean, literally do it anywhere else.
Hmm.
It's a really hard place to do it.
Maybe he's a stat guy. Maybe he's like a Bill James guy. It's like, where is the police department the most incompetent? And he'd be like, oh, they're going to be running around chasing their tails. Like, I'm going to do this in the densest possible place with the densest possible law enforcement.
I mean, I don't know that someone would do that, but you do make a good point, and that surveillance, I believe, has made cops insanely incompetent, even more than they were.
It's baffling now. Like, it took them a few hours to find this backpack that was left for them in Central Park. And then there's footage of, I mean, what do you want the cops to do? There's footage meant to drag the NYPD for their search, but it's just a bunch of dudes walking through Central Park. Like, there's no like vacuum cleaner lasers that they point to brush, to find stuff.
Yeah, it's not like that MTV show where they just showed the flashlight for like semen everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going in. We're looking for semen. Okay, this is a great show. What are they gonna find when they go into your room on the semen hunt?
And all the cops have like the jizz on their own pants.
Turn on the black light.
It's like, damn it.
It's just a glow.
Everyone, wash your pants. Get back to the station.
All right, O'Malley, black light off.
God, there's semen everywhere.
Except for on the crime scene.
God, this locker room is full of semen. Turn off the black light.
Black lights off. Black lights off. Damn it. But yeah, they don't do old fashioned gumshoe work like me and you. They're not out there flatfoots pounding the pavement, taking names, walking into bars, saying they'll bring the whole 2-9 in here to turn this place upside down unless the bartender tells you who is over in the corner.
They're not clocking 12 Twitter accounts, finding out who's snitching on who.
They're all right, bring up the cameras. Like, look, 50% of murders in New York City don't get solved, and everything is recorded. Guys are not really, they aren't real investigators, not like me and you.
Well, me and you are perfect investigators, and I've been working on this theory lately because Jerry Saltz went on Pablo's pod being like, oh, the Dwayne Wade sculpture is terrible. And I want to bring it back to the cops. I totally disagree. It's kind of good. But why? It's not just because it starts conversation. There's memes. Stupid is interesting, right? And I'm so grateful for the NYPD for like kind of giving us all these gems from this case, because this could have been dark and sad and weird. Instead, it's extremely funny.
A victimless crime outside of the victim.
There's been people posting on social media about the horror stories they've had with insurance companies. God damn. And then there's been arguments like, well, in Canada, we don't have to do that. And I know Canadians who are like, yeah, but it's not perfect either. The free stuff we get takes a long time and it's not high quality. So you kind of have to pay out of pocket anyway. But there's a lot of people with conflicting thoughts about America being like, well, then you have to live in Canada. America is a great place. So if you have a serious situation, sometimes you have to pay $7,000 and the insurance company pays $200,000. I don't know, man. The story of this country and art and culture and sports is always money and where the money goes. All the CEOs from the other health insurance companies have taken their like profile pages down on their official sites. I'm like, if you wanted to harass a CEO, just harass them. I don't think a profile page on the official Anthem site is going to be like, oh, I've lost a cent. I don't know who the CEO is. There's no way to find out.
Not if you're a good sleuth.
Not if you're Joel Embiid, or maybe if you are Joel Embiid.
I mean, it's hard to argue against the effectiveness of murdering CEOs in cold blood when you see the outpouring of joy, the new discussions about the healthcare industry, and in my opinion, some fair criticism of the Democratic Party for abandoning some of the burn dogs policies in that regard that were extremely popular.
Who talked about Bernie Sanders? No one brought up Bernie Sanders in this shit.
Why would you not bring up Bernie Sanders? He is
Oh my God.
the archangel of the healthcare debate. It's Bernie. I mean, he's the guy.
He's voted
the one who
along party
mainstreamed
lines his whole career.
I'm just saying he mainstreamed the discussion. That's why I'm bringing up the burn dog. I mean,
He's a Dwayne Wade sculptor. It's just a discussion that matters.
yes, I'm just saying. Burn dog, he's him. You know, like burn dog.
He is-
Foghorn
he-
Leghorn
he
of
is him.
healthcare.
He is him.
But what I mean is, you can't look at the result of this and say, that was a poor result. I don't like how that shook out. It's like, no, we're talking about healthcare. We're talking about the injustice. People are sharing their horror stories. Some insurance companies changed their policies. And I thought, you know, a good point that you made earlier is like, you see what does unify the interests of people on both sides of the aisle, and then you also see what is being put in place to divide people. If you take Joe MAGA and you take, you know, me on other sides of this thing, and you said, well, is your priority healthcare? We'd probably both say, yeah. Is your priority education, healthcare, whatever, you know, childcare, etc.
Inflation,
Like,
whatever.
you're like, totally, inflation,
Yeah.
price gouging, all these things. You're like, all right, but you guys disagree on trans rights. I'm like, oh, you got to let them in the bathroom. And they're like, no way in the bathroom. Like, okay, let's rank these. Like, oh yeah, that's like 15, 20 down, like 30 down. It's not even like top 5. It's like Anthony Edwards level of stardom within like the cast of the topics that I would guess that both sides of the aisle would find, you know, most pressing and most urgent.
If you're gonna
I think
fall
if you
for a
ask
pump
MAGA
fake,
person,
keep pump faking.
that's I mean, it's like, all right, MAGA dude, you can outlaw the people who are trans, or you can have healthcare. Like, ooh, they're taking healthcare.
I mean, yeah, if Charles Smith successfully pump faked that layup, we'd be living in a different world. So
Be flying cars.
yeah, I'd be kick flipping my hoverboard right now, man.
I mean, without getting too much into the topic that you demanded that we discuss, you're like, I want to talk about the fall of the Assad regime. You're like, Ben, we have to talk Syria. We must. But it's this perspective, right? It's like, well, this guy is pretty sure he's Al Qaeda. No. He's a rebel now. oh, like a Robin Hood type of guy. Yes, he's a Robin Hood. But it said, change your perspective. The assassin.
Give them all guns.
Bad man.
Give them all
Folk
guns.
hero.
Oh shit. Yeah.
Wait, I'm pretty sure there was a most wanted sign for this guy when he was part of Al Qaeda for like $10 million. Like, I'm pretty sure that exists. Like, no. You got it all wrong. He's a moderate now, and he's part of a Al Nusra, which is a Kendrick Lamar of social movements.
Tupac is the GOAT. He is the upstanding rap citizen. Oh, wait, what did he go, Jeff? Oh, no, I didn't. This doesn't.
I thought ISIS and Al Qaeda were bad. No. You got that wrong. They are allies, in fact.
Oh, wait, they're bad again. No, they're our allies again. They're right now they're bad. Right now they're bad.
Have their beliefs changed? Absolutely not. They're always the same. It's just who they're working for. Fair enough. And just saying, the point you made before, I was like, Jay-Z, hero, legend, brought Brooklyn, Nets, brought Ben Simmons and the Nets to Brooklyn. Oh, okay. I guess he's now enmeshed in a sexual assault against a minor allegation. Like, fuck.
Ugh.
He was.
I mean, no one has turned Unk faster than him, right? Like a reign of 10 years of incredible shit. Just like hanging on his every word. Canal Street trying to get these fucking uh, albums before 12 hours before they drop. A huge part of my New York life. And then instantly turned into an irrelevant character, not ironically at the same point becomes a billionaire. Takes on a persona like the Picasso baby persona that I don't quite love. Has a Basquiat dreads now and is a collector of art, does stuff for Tiffany's. Just feels like he's not a part of our world anymore. He's like ascended to the Larry Finks of society. And I don't know. I find his artistic failures delicious. I don't find his personal failures as delicious.
Right. Um, I was going to say, what's interesting about the Jay trajectory that you so eloquently described, that he went from, the rebel, the underdog, the guy self-made American mythology, to being, a sort of the idea of like black excellence. He was doing what old white guys had done, but it was a new face to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like you just keep doing that long enough. It's like, all right, you're just one of the bad guys now. Like we've crossed the Rubicon of you being like inspirational, as like you look like a people who don't make it to this position.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You represent something larger than this, and it's like, okay, now you're just trying to get people in Marcy to buy your Bitcoin,
and we don't like your artwork
like,
anymore.
Yeah, right. Jay is also interesting in that he blew up older than a lot of people did.
Oh,
and,
famously.
I mean, he was probably 30 by the time people started caring about him, because he'd been trying to be a rapper for a long time. So to your point about his like Unk transformation, he was already like 10 years older than you would have anticipated. And considering he really only became famous, I would say like famous around the same time as like Lil Wayne.
Well, the Hot
Lil
Boys?
Wayne was a little bit later. I just mean Lil Wayne, that was like 99 when Lil Wayne started blowing up as a member of the Hot Boys. I mean, he was very young.
Boy band.
I just mean
yeah.
he's like 20 years younger than Jay-Z or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, Jay-Z's excellence cannot be denied, right? Like, I mean, there's Zoomers now who don't even regard Rihanna as a musician. She's more of a businessman, business person. But like Jay-Z's reign as just a musician was crazy, unprecedented, Drake-esque. Like if Kendrick cannot come close to Jay-Z at this point, because by this time in Jay-Z's career, he had street anthems and like legitimate pop hits. And Kendrick kind of operates in a different era, but didn't have that kind of popular success.
I agree. And it's funny because I've like 100% opted out of these like, who are the GOAT rappers conversations. Like 100% opted out. But there was a point in my life where I would have been like, it's just got to be Jay-Z. You're like, it's Jay-Z.
I still
like,
think
he's
it's
up
Jay-Z.
there. I'm saying that's a totally valid, like metric-based analytic.
Yeah.
It
The dude
totally
was
a valid
insanely
opinion.
great.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's what I was saying. I was like,
Yeah.
that was that point. And so we are lionizing Jay-Z today. Why?
You say it, man. I hate. I didn't want to
We're
talk
here
about
singing
this.
his praise. We're here singing his praises for what reason?
Well,
So what I wanted to mention was less about this lawsuit against Jay-Z, which I don't know. He's like, no, this is an extortion attempt, which is what you'd say if it was real or false. Like, there's nothing we can take away from any of the back and forth between the allegations, and it's a lawsuit that is tied to Diddy. Again, I have no thoughts on that accusation other than that it's obviously a heinous charge. no idea its validity. Let them sort that out. I was more thinking, could have been at that party. Might have been.
Yeah, that was
That was
kind
the,
of the
the
era.
VMA after party. Yeah, those were, seems weird now, but that was kind of a thing.
I'm told I've unked out, but I imagine that still happens. But back in the day when I was young, yeah, if you wanted to go out, you just end up at a. I mean, we were lucky to or unlucky to. I'm not sure. A VMA party, a place where Jay Z is. I don't know. Like it wasn't hard. Well, it, it was available to more people than I assume it is now.
Yeah. Also, I don't know if the VMAs are still in New York or even. Maybe they are. I don't know. But they were in New York for a while and they moved to LA. But there was a few years like when they kind of first started those awards, I think. Maybe not. Whenever it was.
Courtney Love
That was
versus
about.
Madonna in Times Square. It was crazy.
But that was about when this Jay-Z allegation said it took place, which is like year 2000. Like we were around. We might have been there. I mean, I remember going to some Universal Music party and like just standing next to Christina Aguilera. I just mean that was the era.
I did a lot of freelance work for MTV, so that hanging around those offices, I was young, but I would not have been there because I was too street. Ben Dietrich was too pop. I was hanging out, kerning Stress magazine articles, gatefolds, trying to work my way up to the penthouse where Ben Dietrich and Jay Z were hanging out.
I was an industry bitch. You were an in the streets bitch.
Yeah. I was working on those scanning photos of Eminem for the Stress magazine profiles.
Meanwhile, I was at the park or Man Ray.
Yeah, I mean, not to bring this back to the assassin, but like I was trying to figure out where he would be hanging out, and I had a nice like vibe check for New York. I'm like, oh, is he in that wonderful place, Dickhead Triangle? Or maybe adjacent to Dickhead Triangle, Little Paris. Or maybe now
Is he in Chet Square?
this is what I'm saying. But it's sort of like that Daredevil show on Netflix. It's like they're trafficking people in Hell Square. I'm like, you mean 2 blocks away? Like New York is like all one thing. Like you could be in Chat Square, Little Paris, and the Dickhead Triangle in like 15 minutes.
Well, also, remember when there was the guy who shot up the subway errantly, thankfully.
Mm-hmm.
Like just guy couldn't hit the side of a barn, and like he was spotted like where, like outside of Ladiv.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know what that is. It's right there. It's like he's sitting on the rock. Like yeah, he is right there. There he is.
Oh, I thought you were going to be
It's like he's turning himself in. He's going to the McDonald's on First Avenue. Yeah, it's right there.
the shooter who couldn't hit a target to save his life. Oh, he's right there. He's the starting forward for the New York Knicks.
He's right there. He's Tyrese Maxey.
Oh, he was at Barclays, but they traded 6 first-round picks for him. Now he's just right. He's in the starting lineup.
Yeah, he's right here. Yeah. He shoots 32% from three. That's the guy you're talking about. Yeah.
I tease Guinness, and I don't want that to like fall to the wayside. But we're talking.
Let's do it.
We're talking about Dickhead Triangle. What are they pouring out in Hell Square number 7?
Did a little research. Checked in with one of our buddies who works at a bar called Clams Casino. It rhymes with that. And he says Guinness is their best-selling beer. And it was actually mentioned in a New York Times article about the popularity of Guinness. It is surging in popularity. There's some drinking trends that go along with it, like a chugging thing. Just as you're chugging your water right now, it's like split the G. It's basically drinking like half the Guinness and a third of the Guinness in one go. It's also like lower calorie. There's some benefits to it. It actually is lighter than you'd think, considering its foamy, chocolatey taste, however you want to describe
There's
it.
an artistry to the pouring of it. So if you were gonna have N beer, it's like kind of ceremonial as opposed to a pilsner or whatever.
So this also ties in with an article that came out at about the same time. I forget which publication, please. Maybe it was Bon Appetit.
Was it Stress Magazine? Was it
It
Ego
was,
Trip?
I think it was Screw magazine, perhaps.
Yeah.
I was going through the back of a Screw magazine,
Yeah.
looking through the advertisements.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also a story, and I think it was Bon Appetit, maybe, and they were talking about how draft beers may be a thing of the past, that people are more into drinking out of bottles or cans.
Canned beer is nice.
Canned beer is good. They did something that was like a tie-in to the pandemic in some way. We're like, oh,
Oh, sure.
it's maybe an after effect of that. Maybe it's just people are drinking less beer, although when they are, it's Guinness, apparently. These are all things happening simultaneously. Personally, I think drinking out of a bottle at a bar, pretty gross. Feels gross.
Really? Does it? Like getting a red stripe at a reggae night at Swim? That was gross. All of a sudden, we're all gross.
That was fantastic. But there is, I don't know, I feel like there is something kind of dirty about drinking from a bottle versus a tap, which doesn't make sense in a logical standpoint, of course, because like they're washing the glass that someone else has just used 10 seconds ago and like heat in, and then
You're not talking about
jabbing
bacteria.
themselves with
You're talking about
needles.
Right, right.
Vibes, like holding a bottle. It's just a pint is lovely.
It is lovely, and there's a pageantry to it. I have made a new adult friend who is Italian, and he's a cook, and he invited my family.
Why is this the first time I'm hearing about this, Andrew?
Well, because this is a new development.
You're out here gallivanting around town with an Italian?
Mm-hmm.
You.
And this is recent. And he had my family over for dinner for Thanksgiving. I did bring this up. This has been talked about.
I didn't know about this whole Italian element.
I said it, but you were rambling about Tyrese Maxine. It went over your snitch hunter head. But
these paisanos are your mortal enemy. They have made off. They invented dumplings.
Well, let me finish the story. Eesh.
Is it a dumpling story?
This is a dumpling story. You want to DJ my reggae party on Saturday from 9 to 10?
All the red stripes you can drink.
I have a CD.
Okay, so you're hanging out with an Italian,
right? So, mentioned that I had just made a bolognese for my family a week before, and he was like, "Tell me your recipe," and I was like, "Tomatoes."
You know what's happening next.
This is what I mean. Tomatoes, a pork.
Just imagine him like tomatoes.
Yeah. Tomato paste, just a little thing of tomato paste, and I was like, soy sauce and fish sauce, and he was like, he started laughing.
Bada boom, bada bing.
He started laughing, like giggling, being like, "Well, that's not bolognese. Then you can't call it bolognese." And I'm like, "Fair enough, but this is what I called it because it's closer to that than anything else." He's just like, "But it's not Italian then. It's a kind of fusion. It ceases to become something we were talking about before, which is Italian food. It is not Italian food." And I was like, "Shall we get a pint of Guinness to talk about this?" Because it is kind of the same mental space, right? Like in this crazy doggone world of ours, Ben, where we have our heroes catching allegations, we have CEOs gunned down in these streets. All I want is a beer poured correctly with a foam that rises up like my forefathers intended.
There's a Italian fish sauce.
Mhm.
It's called something like Colometto. What's it called again?
Something. This is not different than Batarga. It's like all these rules are weird, and like
Colatura.
Colatura.
And so he's gonna say, "Yeah, Andrew, you know what? That's just some fraud shit. I don't know what you're doing over there with your Asian ass pasta." And then he's gonna be like, "Guys,
Yeah.
here it is. Bolognese, the Italian way. Colamuto, whatever the fuck I just called it. He's like, it's a fish sauce. It has its origins in Rome, and then there's like this umami taste that we add to it, and you're like, they've done it again.
And I hate watching Wiley Dufresne on my YouTube talking about umami, being like, I put soy sauce in my sauce. I'm like, no shit. It's like, oh, there's no cheese and fish. That is a rule. It's like, cool. What kind of pizza do you like? It's like anchovy. Like, God damn it. It's a moving target, man. I'm Joel Embiid trying to find the snitch, and I cannot do it.
I don't know. You're just over here losing recipes to the Italians yet again. When will you and your people learn?
But I want to bring this back to the Guinness thing because
Great.
Isn't this a kind of control in this chaotic world that like people are just like, I don't want a teeny, I don't want a espresso martini, I don't want an apple martini, I want a Guinness because I'm tired of all these gimmicks. I just want a hooper. I don't want someone dancing after a loss or a win in the locker room with painted fingernails. I just want a doggone hooper like DeMar DeRozan.
Maybe that's what it is.
Maybe we're all
The
unks.
hooper.
We're all unks, right? Because like you're not standing at center court on Saturday night at MSG wanting an espresso martini. You want a one Guinness situation.
All right. This is worth discussing with beverages, right? At a Knicks game or Nets game. It's just big cans now when you want a beer. Never small cans, particularly. It's just big cans.
Kyle Lowry plays in Philadelphia, so we don't have to talk about that.
I'm not talking about bazungas here, Andrew. Like, grow up.
Okay,
this isn't
fine.
a bazungas conversation. I'm not talking about real like honkers or headlights. I'm talking about beers, Andrew. Come on, just grow up.
Donghorn,
They only have
Leghorn. Right.
Yeah, dude. Just like a little maturity.
I know. It's went
I'm
off
not
the
talking
rails.
about something. Like, no, we're not doing that. All right.
All right.
What I'm saying is they're all like 20, 24-ounce beers. I get it. They're expensive as shit. They cost like $17 for a beer. You're throwing a tip on there. They're expensive. You can't be walking back and forth getting a small can of beer. And that's just, it doesn't make sense.
And you want a big one because people have to get up so you can sit in the middle of the aisle, whatever.
Yeah, it makes sense. I do kind of miss like the like big like frosty sort of paper cups that they used to have back in the day.
Yeah, I remember.
That just had more of a like
Charles Oakley ruled over at MSG.
Yeah, like sitting there at MSG with a can of beer just isn't as cool as a big paper cup full of suds.
I kind of agree, but also those big ass cans are kind of cool too. Like bigger than a tall boy. What do they call those? Pounders? Those are good. It's very expensive. During the Unkathon, the unction, I believe they were charging $1 popcorns. I'm like, bring back the paper cup beers. Do something.
Yeah, paper cup beers would be good. It's funny thinking about like, wow, $1 popcorn. Like, yeah, we're only making an 80% profit on it now.
But what I always ask this: what's your go-to?
Normally
meal?
it's a $9 popcorn. You're like, popcorn, man. Yeah. It's like one container of popcorn it's like at most maybe a fifth of a cup. Like 2 tablespoons of kernels.
I know, but by the time it gets into your grubby mitts, a lot has happened. You have to hire someone to make it. You have to hire someone to sell, etc., etc. Healthcare. I should be a CEO of a healthcare business.
Look, whoever's charging $8 for popcorn, if they get gunned down in the street, I guarantee there won't be a lot of mourning. But yeah, like $1 popcorn, like incredible. Like you couldn't just give the popcorn out, man. You couldn't, like no. $1 popcorn.
It is filling though, so you don't want to fill your customer base full of bread before the gabagool.
This is true. But I believe you asked me my ideal order. I've really enjoyed when I've gone to, say, a minor league hockey game, for example. I like the cracking the peanuts open and dumping the shells on the ground. It feels like glorious littering. There is a scofflaw element that's great. Like, yeah, just throw your shells all over the floor, make a mess. It's kind of great.
Yeah, it's like one of the few, like, they don't serve chicken wings usually at arena events because detritus, bones, whatever. So like the peanut shells are kind of a holdover, and it kind of has like a nice old timey bar feel to it. And McSorley's is famous for having sawdust on the ground, right? When you have your one.
Yeah, they don't like mess with your shoes or anything like that. You just
No.
crunch them, and they're just kind of dusty.
Yeah, sort of like the reunion at MSG. But yeah, I like the peanuts, but I really like the popcorn and double pour of like vodka or whiskey, which costs like $40 each. So if you're buying 2 drinks for you and your homie, that's $80 fucking dollars, man.
Yeah, I was at a game not too long ago. One of our buddies was there, and he's ordering drinks. He's like, he'd already had a drink when he got there, and he just comes out. He's like, yeah, like another one. I was like, all right, I got this round. You know, it's cool. He's like, yep, like great whiskey double. And I was like, all right, got me.
$45. Yeah, he screwed you. I used to have a friend that used to go to
good.
the Yankees games with. It's fucking hilarious. He would be like, I'm hungry. I'm at a baseball game. I would like to eat some hot dogs, but they're too expensive inside Yankee Stadium. So I like to buy them outside of the stadium. So I would watch him hork down 4 hot dogs, being like, it's a much better value. I'm like, bro, you don't need to eat 4 hot dogs before you go into the game. And I was like, is it the fact that you need to consume these hot dogs, or is it enjoying a hot dog while watching a game? He was just like, we're at a game, so I need to take these down before we go in. I'm like, checkmate, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I look, there is a precedence here for tailgating. Like, we're going to go to the game, so we're going to get real drunk beforehand. It's like, we're going to the game, but I'm going to wolf down 4 hot dogs just so they're in my system.
Yeah.
I just need them in my system when I'm in there. Like, you can't see them. I'm not eating them, but you know that that processed like pork gizzards and things are, those intestines are like flooding in my system, and I'm Apex fan right now. Like, my blood is processed meat.
Oh, you got tickets to the Knicks? I got to run and get some chopped cheese before I pass through those metal detectors. Got to take down 2 of these chopped cheeses.
Just big fucking bongs. Dude, we're it's like halfway through the first quarter. Gonna eat 2 slices of pizza before we get inside.
Seriously. And you know, these dudes at the unction, like, shout out. None of them can eat this stuff. They're like us. Heartburn reigns supreme here. I'm looking at this photo, man. Rod Strickland, the God. Yo, Raymond Felton, John Walt, JYD, Junkyard Dog. Wilson Chandler is there. Novocaine. This is like, all right, let me ask you a question. Is this depressing or awesome?
Well, before we answer that question, I just want to shout out my guy, John Wallace, Rochester legend. The only one who knew what this was.
He's wearing Kangol.
He came in there wearing a Kangol. He knew this was an unction. Everyone else is out there, oh, I'm just a former Knick. He's like, oh, I see the writing on the wall. This is an unction, and there's one thing that you can wear to an unction, and it's a Kangol. And he brought it out.
Raymond Felton is wearing Jordan 1s and cargo pants.
No, okay, that's unction.
Yeah.
That's unction official.
Yo, Ron Artest
for sure
is wearing a red polo and wash denim jeans. It's incredible. I think what it looks like patent leather Air Force Ones. Incredible. Incredible. Like the gods, right? And in this photo, this storied photo, up front and center, you got Amon Shumpert, J.R. Smith, Steve Novak, but we're missing some Taiwanese flavor here. What's going on? There's no Jeremy Lin?
I don't know of any Knicks legend who fits that criteria. Yeah, the Lin absence to all this like sort of regurgitation of Knicks lore. Because again, just to get back to my guy John Wallace, he played 17 minutes total for the Knicks
He's
over
a famous Nick, though.
2 seasons. But it is weird that John Wallace has become like a famous Knick. He barely played there. He was there for part of 2 seasons and was like a minor role player. To the best of my knowledge, he didn't really have any memorable moments. He wasn't really on memorable teams. But it's mostly that he played for Syracuse. And Syracuse, because of the lack of like a real like New York City basketball culture, like Syracuse is just kind of that team in many ways.
Yeah.
So he is, they never won a title, but he went to the title. But he worked there. I'm just happy that John Wallace has become part of New York, like Knicks, New York City lore, despite the fact that he's like a very marginal player. But back to your main point.
I mean, I
Jeremy
don't
Lin.
I don't want to slander any of these people in the photo, but like Steve Novak is there. Like we got Eddie Curry, which was lovely to see, honestly, because I thought Eddie Curry was scapegoated a little bit. He tried his best, man. JYD is not like a classic Nick.
No,
So this was kind of a hodgepodge. I don't see Carmelo in this photo, even though he was there for the festivities.
he was there. I'm sure.
No, I
Was
saw
Amari there?
Amari's right there. Yep. Amari's politics are probably complicated, but he's probably welcome in the Garden. You got your boy Allen Houston, who taught you the proper jump shooting form.
Yep.
John Starks
guy.
works there. You got your regular employees like Larry Johnson.
Oh, so Wallace worked there for sure. He was in the building all the time.
Yeah, there was
Like, I took a photo of him like 7 years ago. There, I was like, it's John Wallace. Amazing.
and like I got in my feelings a little bit because I recalled the time where I actually cared about the Knicks, seeing some of these faces. True heartbreak watching Ron Artest put on that Bulls cap on draft night, which he talks about, right? He's like, all is forgiven. And why? Because they invited him back. He had a brief tenure with the Knicks that was super fun, but like, I think watching this kind of roll call of the last 2 or 3 decades, and it goes even farther. There's some old timers in there. It's like the Knicks kind of betrayed us. Like I think the Ron Art when we talked about the Ron Artest, when we do talk about the Ron Artest draft, he puts it in terms of like maybe I was like a bit too reckless, maybe I was kind of a loose gun, and we knew he was chaotic, and we knew he was a defensive superstar who kind of operated in the margins of the game, but he was a St. John's player, QBC, Mob Deep, and passing on him was a signal that the Garden was about selling that $8 popcorn and not like the culture of New York.
And you knew when the culture had changed because I remember you said we need Obi Toppin. If there's anyone the Knicks should take it, they must take Obi Toppin. He's a New York City guy. We got to take him. And they drafted him. You said, Ben,
So one player I
it's
want.
like I'm controlling the Knicks. They're doing my bidding, and this is what I need from a franchise.
But like this is a corporation, right? This is, and I was trying to word this correctly on Twitter. It was like the fallibility of the Knicks, I think, at looking at all these faces, is the fact that James Dolan had a family friendly image of this product. And a lot of these people, there was talk of the God Squad, Charlie Ward, Allen Houston. We're still there. Like the Villanova guys are Catholic school guys. And maybe it cycles around like Haley's Comet. Maybe in once or twice in a basketball lifetime, any strategy works. And if the nepotism Disney strategy fails for an amount of time, there's a chance it would succeed. Jalen Brunson grew up in MSG, a Nick for life at birth, and then making him happy, getting friends. Carl Anthony Towns is a nice guy. Let's trade for him. Kentucky, Worldwide West. It has all the mechanisms of how they've constructed teams in the past, but they got some good players right now and they can do some damage. So like I know why they're doing this kind of cultural build with having the unction, but they haven't changed. It's like we're not in the golden age. We're just we're Ben, we're dead, walking around MSG with that one
It's
janitor sweeping dust.
some days, if you listen carefully, you can hear the sneakers squeaking. So let's talk Knicks briefly here. Other than the Knicks of lore and let's talk about your New York Knicks. Man, this is good radio.
Were you just rapping? You were rapping just now, man. Bart.
I think it's just the 20th anniversary, man. It's just really got me in my unk feelings.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Knicks, I think they won 9 of 11 before losing to Tobias Harris's Pistons the other night in a game that Cat didn't play. Number one offense.
Yeah.
Give me the state of the union. How are you feeling?
Watching Precious Achua come back and eat some minutes kind of made a little bit of sense. Just, I'm not a huge Precious fan, but he's obviously a serviceable NBA rotational player. So watching him kind of help the bigs out with a little bit of clock real estate was awesome. Health is everything. I think this team is figuring it out defensively. They have the number one offense in the NBA. Tom Thibodeau has spent most of his Knicks career hearing people wanting him fired. Is he not one of the better coaches this team has ever had? Like Mike D'Antoni, whatever. Basketball started in '94, so I don't know if Rick
96.
Pitino. No, '96. I don't know if Rick Pitino qualifies, but
well, let's hear this, Thibs, because my understanding is that he should have been fired many times over. And
yeah.
Now that Randall has been traded,
Right,
the last quiver in the bow of the Knicks skeptic is fire Thibs. And you say no. You say no, we should be glazing, in fact.
yeah, we shouldn't follow Tibbs down a early morning street stroll through Midtown. Tibbs is an offensive juggernaut of a coach, right? Like when he was hired and he got the pieces last year, they were a solid like bottom second tier contender. Adding Cat at some size with Mikal, like this will be the best offense in the NBA with Tibbs, and they are. Defensively, they need some health and some luck, but he has been everything we wanted from a coach. He's funny, he's relatable, he's got a receding hairline, he's stressed out as fuck, and he delivers on his promise.
There was always talk about how players tuned Thibs out. That was a critique of him. That after a few years,
Jimmy Butler, yeah,
like it just wears thin. This could be true, except that Jimmy Butler went back and played with him in Minnesota after Chicago. Guys like Joakim Noah,
Taj Gibson loves him.
Luol Deng, Derrick Rose. I mean, these guys always go back and play for him. So, like, there isn't really a lot of evidence that players do get tired of him. That may be something that people just say.
Project.
I just can't think of any player who's been like, yeah, I just don't fuck with Thibs. I literally can't. I mean, Karl Anthony Towns, whatever their relationship was, it was clearly fine enough for him to come and be traded to the Knicks. And
Towns he looks like he's having fun playing, right? Like he was kind of, I've never seen this version of Towns.
Right. I just mean, where is the evidence, in fact, that people tune him out?
Right.
Because it seems like the guys who play for him do it over and over and over.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know. Do coaches on Tom Thibodeau's tier matter? Does he enter the tier of coaches who do matter? And we've been debating this. We've been trying to hit this moving target as Robin Hoods ourselves, Robin Hoods of truth, trying to bring the coaching truth back to the Shire. But like sometimes I think there's a plethora of coaches that can affect the outcomes of games and seasons in unique ways. And then sometimes you're Spo, and I'm just like, oh, he seems to have lost his superpowers. and I kind of reconfigure my ideas of what a coach can and can't do, especially watching the Lakers start their season.
Well, I think one thing that is evident about Thibs is the quote unquote like buy-in, however much of a cliche that is. It's this,
That's a baseline, though, right?
but I'm saying it's also a combination of getting players who will play a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Because, for example, Mikal Bridges, when he was in Brooklyn, he was playing differently. He was a primary scorer. He was taking dumb shots. Here, he hasn't shot that well, but his role is different,
Mm-hmm.
and he's fine with that. And that's what I'm saying. Is that
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that Thibs is uniquely someone who can get people to buy in,
Mm-hmm.
but there is a pretty good track record at this point of him taking guys who are role players and turning them into guys who are starter quality. I mean, DiVincenzo is a good example. I'm not saying he made DiVincenzo a good basketball player, because DiVincenzo was a good basketball player, but he was like, fuck it, you're playing 48 minutes a game and you're gonna hoist threes. Cool. You know, he empowers players, I think. And the irony of his willingness to put people on the court for insane minutes and that jeopardizing their health is that all players want to play more minutes.
And
Gives them more stats. Guys like playing basketball.
he makes Julius Randle an all NBA player, because he's just like, I'm going to leave you on the court. You're going to accumulate rebounds, points, free throws, assists, everything. Yeah, players want to play.
Yeah.
And the biggest sin a coach can commit is yanking a player when he doesn't want to come off the court, right?
Yeah, and I mean, it's funny because people talk about, oh, these guys don't want to play. They don't want to play. Bullshit.
No, I agree.
They all want to play.
Yeah.
They all want to play. The sitting out due to load management is obviously injuries, but it's also dictated by teams.
Yeah.
It's funny that players are the ones who get slandered as being soft or weak, and they're the ones who are betraying the fans because they sat out. Like, I came here 3,000 miles to watch Mikal Bridges, and he sat out for the first time in history, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
It's the team's deciding it, or the player is hurt. I mean, even playing like, a pickup game, in a let's say a league game when you're playing. Okay, there's some refs, they're running around. You want to be on the court. Even like a normie, a regular person, you want to be out there running around. You want to be taking shots. You want to be playing basketball. Some hyper-competitive psycho like Jalen Brunson, you think he doesn't want to play 48 minutes a game? Of course he does.
And like this, Timothy Chalamet kind of went viral this week because he was on College Game Day, and he was like, he knows ball. He was just talking about the matchups and picking. But, that show is structured in a certain way where I felt, while it was amazing, and I'm a fan of Dune and his movies, and I thought he looked hilarious and did a great job. I was like, he's just naming players loudly and coaches and like one statistic. It's like, well, they lost last time, and A, B, and C, and I got them, and it's the format and all that. And sometimes I think the mistakes I make when I kind of get lazy looking at a basketball game is I just look at substitutions and minutes. Like, what lineup is out there? If they lost, it's a bad lineup or whatever. And I'm not looking at stuff when I have a better attention span, like when the Lakers played the Hawks a couple games ago, and the Hawks just demolished their switching at the perimeter. And I'm like, I'm not sure this is coaching. It might be, but like, these Lakers perimeter players are not good at following the right man. And Trae Young was just feasting off them. They ended up winning. The Hawks ended up winning in overtime. And you started hearing the grumblings again of like, what's wrong with this team? Because LeBron had a great game. He had a classic game. But it's never JJ Redick. And I believe JJ Redick and Darvin Ham had comparable starts to this season and last season.
Yeah, they're currently 13 and 11. Net rating 20th. Offensive rating 13th. Defensive rating 26th. Their defense stinks. Last year with Darvin Ham, They finished 47-35, better, rate of victory. 15th in offense, 18th in defense. So they are worse at, both. Well, they're a little better offensively and much, much worse on defense. And that's clearly a product of personnel as much as it is coaching.
Pelinka
If JJ Redick is more of an offensive player because that's who he is as a person and more of an offensive coach, I mean, he's going to put guys that gravitate towards that side of the ball. So it makes sense the offense would be a little bit better. And some may say, well, it's because of his more inventive play calling. It's more of, he's devised these plays, and maybe there's some truth to that. But also, this is kind of the same team.
Yeah. I mean, quite literally.
Except it's the same people, and LeBron is a year older.
Yeah, they added Dalton Connect, who is having his ups and downs. I like the way he fits, but Pelinka didn't make any moves aside from drafting college players. And I don't care about what happens to the Lakers, but I do care about what happens to LeBron, because we're not going to get him for much longer. And we've been having this discussion for what it seems like the last 5 years, but I'm like, every game is precious with LeBron. And when he is playing uphill, it's kind of frustrating. I'm like, it's not that hard to surround him with talent, but GMs kind of sometimes do have problems.
I was thinking about that, I guess that preciousness, as you said, about LeBron the other day. Just turned on the game, the Hawks one as well.
Mm-hmm.
He's out there. Obviously, he's not moving the same way.
Yeah.
But he still does LeBron stuff. Got to the basket.
Chase down block.
Move, hit the guy,
Yeah.
flip the ball in. I was thinking that, man, this is just LeBron in some ways toiling in obscurity. And that's the sad thing about LA and him ending his career there. Obviously, of his own volition, he totally chose this.
Yep.
He said, I want to be in LA. I'm going to bring Anthony Davis there. We're going to win a title. They did it. If you want to look at his tenure there, they won a chip.
He's playing with his son.
You got one. Exactly. He didn't take an L there. But in a way, watching, I was like, it's LeBron in the wilderness. Just him out there, aging, playing against some young guys, Dyson Daniels running around against the Hawks on a regular night in December. And you're like, fuck, man. I want more, even though I'm not saying there could be more. I just want more.
He's trying to review all the teriyaki restaurants in Seattle. And it's awesome because you like him and you want to see it. But goddamn, it's like, can you come to New York and show us some tasty vittles? I want LeBron James to have one more challenge in his career. And right now it doesn't seem like the Lakers have any chance.
I have told you that I saw Kenji on the street in Greenpoint, right?
Right. You were like, is this possible? I'm like, he just dropped a story from New York. So yes.
Yeah. I was like, we talk about it all the time. I'm like, did I even mention that in the pod?
Did I imagine that?
I was walking down Nassau.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 years ago.
What do you think he was?
It's a lot like Kenji.
What do you think he was sampling? Do you think he was going to Wen or something?
No, this is on Nassau. This is past McGorlick. I mean, he was out here in the trenches.
Was he like a stat hog for teriyaki?
He was just by himself. He kind of looked at me, and I looked at him, and he gave me a coy smile as if I'd caught him up to something. But then I went on his Instagram, and he'd been at Pauly G's earlier. I'm like, that's definitely him.
Oh yeah, there we go. And D&D, right?
It was doing his it was his little pizza excursion. It was literally the day that he had been at Pauly G's. I'm like, yeah, that was Kenji.
That's a good.
He went into an apartment building.
Oh,
I spied on him.
Kenji's personal life has been a lot. There's a whole kind of subculture that people trying to figure out what's going on in his life. When you rent a houseboat, the rumors will fly.
I know we talked about this last episode. I don't even want to make fun of the guy. I'm just thinking of your Millhouse's dad thing. It just kills me. I laughed about that after the pod. Just here's my houseboat. Take a look.
Do you sleep in a house?
Whoa.
Do you record an amazing food YouTube channel on a houseboat?
Do you eat teriyaki by yourself every day?
On the hood of your car? your sports car / bed. Yeah. Okay.
It's a Sonic's bed.
JJ Redick. Are we giving him a pass because he's a beloved podcaster? The big podcast media mafia? Is it because he's white? Is it because we're tired of criticizing coaches after spending all that time on Darvin Ham? Or are we just, do we need to see more?
Personally, I never had an issue with Darvin Ham.
I
I never really know what Lakers fans are talking about. I'll be honest. Like I pay attention to the team. I have thoughts about the team, but the same way that there's the Fire Thibs trade Randall stuff with the Knicks, that version of that in LA, I'm never sure exactly what they're griping about. I mean, this goes with all fan bases. You know, you'll see an argument like, wait, what? What are you guys talking about? Like, oh yeah, this is about like there's a real schism here in the Pelicans
right.
fan base about like Brandon Ingram. You're like, oh, okay, all right, well, yeah, whatever, dude, carry on. Yeah, eat all the teriyaki down there. Go off.
Well, this is the trap I was talking about. I'm like, if I'm not paying attention enough, I'm like, oh, play the player that doesn't play. That's the answer. Or get the player that we don't have. That's the answer. And the coach should play them. Those things are my entire criticism. Timothy Chalamet with a pencil mustache. But like to Lakers fans' credit, there was footage of Darvin Ham in timeouts where I'm like, oh, he doesn't want to do this shit. He just looks at LeBron's like, I don't know, what do you want to do? And I'm like, this seems weird. Like, I don't love that. And LeBron being like, what are we doing right now? And Darvin Ham's like, I don't know. What do you want to do? It sucks to coach LeBron fucking James, right? Like, who is a player coach, pretty much.
Yeah, I'm not saying these things didn't happen. I'm mostly talking about these sort of internal dialogues of fan bases. Like, dude, don't even talk about Shaden Sharp. This is a bunch of Blazers fans. Like, oh, I didn't know. I'm sorry if I offended you. It's like, no, you got to be really delicate when discussing Shaden Sharp. Like, that's a very touchy subject here. Like, sorry, dude.
Well, like we talked about last pod with Timberwolves fans being like, oh, Julius Randle does not want it enough. I'm like, wait, you guys are doing that too? I thought we were doing that, but you guys are also doing that?
Don't bring up Randle around Timberwolves fans. Like, you guys have strong feelings. Oh yeah. It's like that's a real lightning rod. Like, oh.
Yeah, I don't know what Milwaukee fans are talking about Doc Rivers, but they must be right twice a game.
I mean, they're winning some games. All right, okay.
To be honest,
sure.
MVP.
It's like, dude, don't talk about Chris Middleton's injury. There's a Bucks fan in the room. Shh, do it.
Do you think are there any Denver Nuggets fans who are like, if Jokic lost 20 pounds and decided to like become the best version of himself, we would have more championships, but instead he's just like gobbling up stats like Kenji gobbles
oink,
up
oink.
teriyaki.
Yeah, look, we know Jokic doesn't care about winning. He's made it very clear he doesn't care about basketball. He doesn't take the offseason seriously. He's partying with big steins of beer, dancing on tables.
One Guinness.
Never hits the gym.
Mm-hmm.
He's not working on his jumper.
Hanging out in Little Serbia.
That's what I'm saying. He's not out here, trying to like improve his game.
Mm-hmm.
Lo and behold, his team stinks. Where is the desire? Instead, you know what he cares about?
Buckets.
Stats.
Yeah. Woo.
Oink, oink. He is in the trough this year. Oh, look at me. My team's 27 points for 100 possessions better when I'm on the court. Oink, oink.
Do you have to win 3 championships for people to like acknowledge that you've won one? Winning one is not enough, right? Like you have to three-peat for someone to be like, all right, they're a champion.
Well, this sort of changed a little bit, right? A lot of that was you had the Jordan era where it was like, he won 6. There's the 2 when he wasn't there, and Akeem got both. So it was like, all right, that's like a decade basically. That's just that. And then prior to that, you had the Lakers winning 5 in the 80s.
And a
Celtics
Kobe
winning
being a
3.
part of all 5 of those with different better
Oh, I'm
players
talking
around
about
him.
I'm talking about prior to Kobe, the
Oh,
early,
James
like
Worthy and
the
stuff.
Magic era. But
Right.
it was more that like not that many teams won. So now we've had this era with a little bit more parity. It's like Giannis got his, like, all right,
Dirk.
I guess, okay, we
Yeah.
like Dirk was kind of the first guy where this happened, right? Where like he got his title and it validated him and it changed the way that he was discussed from being the soft guy who wouldn't get his ass in the paint, this overgrown Euro, to being a dog and a lion. And of course it helped that he beat LeBron and he was a white dude, but he was the one where, like, he got it. He's real. And then it was like Giannis. I'm glad Giannis got it. Okay, I'm glad Jokic got it. Like, all right, well, running out of guys who need to get a chip, like Embiid, but he's always hurt. Luka, but he made it to the finals. He's still pretty young.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Paul's too old. Anthony Davis got one with LeBron. We kind of ran out of like, you got to win a title. Embiid would be the most natural guy for this, but he's just hurt all the time and he's never even had a real run. Right. He's already on the losing side of this argument. James Harden had that for a while, but he's too old now.
How do we make sense of Kawhi Leonard in Toronto?
He got his chip, right? It's like, all right, and he had one in San Antonio, so he's got 2, not 3, right? Or is he 3?
I think he might have 3. I don't know this, but yeah, I don't know. And this is what the league wants, right? Like parity, so fan bases can be invested. Like we could be the next ones, but the criticism raining down on Jokic is like delightful because it brings back an old argument of like statistics versus winning, but it gets salted so quickly because I'm like, but he's a champion. Like he is not a stat hog. He just won a championship 2 years ago, which is not that long ago. There are complaints because he's dropped career highs this week and been this statistical mammoth, this like mountain of a player that is going to win and lost a couple games, right?
I'm sorry, sir. You were stat hogging and you're lost to the Wizards? Where is the morality, Andrew?
And then people being like, well, he doesn't make Michael Porter Jr. better. He doesn't make Jamal Murray better. And I'm like, okay, these 3 guys are champions. They've won a championship. Like,
well, hold on. I want to get into this for a second here. This idea of like making people better, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, you run the whole offense through him, he generates shots. People like, how would he make people better other than giving them good looks, right? Other than generating,
I believe Porter has
shots.
Open looks. My eye test says he has enough open looks.
But I mean, okay, so Jokic is averaging like 10 assists and he's one of the best passers. He's a genius passer. Like, yeah, but he doesn't make his teammates better. Well, how would you do that? Like by yelling at them? Is it just like the quality of leadership? Like, no,
it's cultural, right?
Like what Kobe would do is he would stare at his teammates and he'd like call them bitches until they went out there and became better. So we're actually not talking about like on the court. We're talking about like maybe Jokic is a bad leader.
For someone who has won a championship.
I don't know.
Right. And like,
well, he used to be a good leader like 2 years ago. Now he's just a simple stat hog.
I mean, I love it because I mean, who's he really coming after? Like, I love to compare Anthony Edwards to Michael Jordan because they look like kind of in the same category of player. I think Jokic is better. Shaq, I think, is criminally underrated, but Jokic is probably better than Shaq. He only has 1 championship, though, right? But I've never liked the pieces Denver has put around him. But like we say on this pod, I've said on this pod, it's like luring people to play with Jokic is a tougher task than luring people to play with Kobe in LA or LeBron in Miami or for that brief instance in Boston, because these are like fulcrums of media and culture, NBA culture and all that. Denver, it's like the altitude kind of sucks. You're in the middle of nowhere. If Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. want to extend there, you just got to do it.
A lot of fantastic points there. The one that I would like to address a little bit is no. When you said the personnel around them, like it's pretty good. Jamal Murray, good player, 0-time All-Star, but good player.
Had a huge
Injury prone,
moment.
streaky, good player. Michael Porter Jr. kind of the issue.
Yeah,
Kind of the issue, right? Like Jamal Murray, good enough to be your second best player. He is not a unique prototype in the league. He's a combo guard. He can pass a bit. He handles the ball. He can do a lot of stuff. There are many guys like him. He's a totally adequate version of that player. Smallish guard. He's filthy as a basketball player. Like he has awesome highlights. He's great at doing stuff.
The bubble was crazy.
But that doesn't. Yeah, and I mean even in last year's playoffs,
crazy.
And, hitting these crazy turnaround jumpers. Finishing off the games against the Lakers. Like really gifted player that doesn't always correspond to him being a great basketball player.
Sure. Yep.
All that said, the main issue is that they got away with winning a title despite bungling the Michael Porter Jr. thing.
Yeah.
I get what you mean about, well, where are we going to replace this guy? He's young. That's just how contracts work. What are we going to do? Trade him? Or are we going to let him walk? We're going to pay him. And it's mostly impressive that Jokic was able to win a title with a portion of their salary dedicated to a guy who just isn't that good. Like that's kind of like, that's how you don't win titles.
Yeah.
Sixers went and got Tobias Harris. It's like, hey boys, I got news for you. That's no titles for you for the next 5 years. Like, fuck, what do you mean? Like, well, you just signed Tobias Harris.
Right.
You just gave a max contract to a mediocre player that is going to haunt you for the next half decade. Like, we did?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Don't even think about winning a title. You aren't playing on the same level as other teams now. They have superstars and role players that are using this $35 to $45 million wisely. You aren't. So you're not winning a title. And Denver did. And that was kind of impressive. They fucked that up and were able to get a title in part because of Jokic's greatness. They got really good performance from Murray. They built a smart team around him, except that they were playing with one arm behind their back.
Yeah.
Because of Michael Porter Jr. Yeah. Not even that he was horrible. That's just how it goes. He was overpaid and he ate up too much of the salary cap. But once you started losing those value contracts, the Bruce Browns and the KCPs, and you're like, all right, so now we got to replace those guys with guys who aren't as good. Yeah. We don't really have any money because we're still paying this dude.
Right.
Now you look at a team that is kind of a G League squad when Jokic is off the court.
Crazy. And we saw it front and center in the playoffs last year. Porter Jr. just, if he's not hitting his shots, he's a full negative. He is in the RJ Barrett Knicks category of player. It's like, okay.
Not in the RJ Barrett All-Star category with the Raptors, right?
A delightful story. Like, no one dislikes RJ Barrett. He was so bad on the Knicks and kind of good on the Raptors.
Bizarre that he can like pass on the Raptors.
I mean, he's still not like an all-star, but his stats, his counting stats are good.
Well, I mean, just him going from being one of like the most oblivious, lack of object permanence players.
Oh my gosh.
The one that can pass the ball.
Yeah. And like
that's on Thibs. Fire Thibs.
But if you decided to give RJ Barrett a max contract moving forward, you're not going to win a championship. I don't think. He's still going to have great nights. Michael Porter Jr. at times looks like central casting. He looks like he could be the Alfred on a championship team, which he was. But like as recently as last playoffs, bricks a few shots, kind of lost on defense, kind of lost on offense. God, you got to yank him. You got to take him off the court. And they won the championship without playing him much. But back to Jokic, any opportunity to slander this guy, I think, is fascinating. And I think people are waiting to, because he poses a threat to muddying up Michael Jordan's legacy with his awards, not his championships. And
right.
And he messes up.
Sorry. Go on. Yes,
I'm
listening. Yeah.
He messes up NBA history.
Yeah, that's true. And part of this is like, Larry Bird, things like that.
Right.
It's like, well, if he wins another MVP, shit, man. Like, what's the category then? Well, all right, is that the same as LeBron? You know, it's like,
Right. Yeah.
is that MJ? Like, what are we doing here? Like, as you said, and and I think part of it with discussing Jokic is, as you said, if he had 3 championships and 3 MVPs, be like, great, that's the symmetry we're talking about. He's an all-timer. Everyone knows how good he is.
Right.
This is all true. But then you get these claims about like, oh, well, they intentionally have a bad backup so that his numbers will be rigged. I'm like, that's not how people like build basketball teams.
Right.
Like, no, our backup center is going to be, we're going to get a center who sucks dick. Like, he's terrible. Like, absolutely an awful player. Like, Ben, whoa, you guys want a center job? The Nuggets, like, imagine how great Jokic's stats would be if you chunks were out there, like, screwing around on the court. Like, yeah, dude, just whatever. Just literally go out there and just poop on the court. Do whatever you want.
Take one of these
is about
Knicks
getting
home.
Jokic's stats up.
Yeah. And like, at what point are stats good? Because Jokic's offensive stats are tremendous.
Like,
Yeah. And like, does he have to win? Because he has a championship. Does he have to win in the moment? Does he have to win the game where he puts up those stats? Because like, there's many examples of the legends of the game putting up incredible statistics without a chance to win a championship. Or
I mean, who can forget 1942?
Right.
Terrence Foghorn Leghorn dropping 12 points a game, leading the league in scoring. Shot 32% from the floor, an all-time high.
I saw someone responding online just being like, they're LeBron bots. I'm convinced that these LeBron tweets they got to be paid for by a Jordan brand because it only costs a few $1,000s. And every time LeBron has a good game, the Jordan bots are like 6 championships, undefeated. And the new argument du jour is like, but he didn't win without Pippen, which I love. I think Pippen might be as good, but that's a different bad take for another bad time. We're trying to make the perfect pod over here.
That's an imperfect take for an imperfect world for an imperfect pod. So yeah, skip it for now.
And the response would be like, well, Jordan statistically has shown examples where Pippen has struggled, Jordan has carried both of them. And like Michael Jordan is still the fulcrum, even according to Pippen. And I'm like, but there was also Tony Kukoc, and there was also Dennis Rodman, and there was also like really wonderful players. BJ Armstrong was like an excellent point guard of that era. Paxson could shoot the lights out. Kerr could shoot as a spot up shooter. Jerry Krause made good teams, and a lot of players wanted to play with Michael Jordan. I'm not sure Denver can lure those kinds of players over because they seem to be leaving instead of arriving.
Well, it's funny that people would defend Jordan by being like, well, LeBron had to play with Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade. LeBron had to play with Kyrie and Kevin Love. LeBron had to play with Anthony Davis. You could be like, well, yeah, but Jokic had to play with, you're like, all right, Jamal Murray when he was on a heater. Bruce Brown, he had to play with Bruce Brown.
Right.
It's more that he only has one, to your point, right? Because if you wanted to be like, well, Giannis, he got his. You're like, playing with Brook Lopez, Hall of Famer. Brook Lopez.
I love Brook Lopez. I love Brook Lopez.
They're saying he's going to the Hall. I'm hearing it over and over on Twitter.
Hey, I love a man who can change.
Some Brook bot.
We just need men in this world to change, to discard of toxic masculinity.
There's some anonymous Brook Lopez assassin who's out there just shooting up all of our takes with Brook Lopez Hall of Famer written on the bullets.
He was an assassin in the tri-state area. Not necessarily. What? Was he a Brooklyn net at one point? He made it over, right?
Yeah, he was part of those early teams.
Darren Williams.
They made some foolish trades. Yeah, Darren Williams, then the one where Billy King had the longest view in the room and brought in KG and Paul Pierce. He was on those teams. I could be wrong. He might still be the leading scorer in Nets history. He may be.
Yeah,
well, let's
prominent
look.
assassin.
We've teased the Brooke Lopez Hall of Fame conversation for too long. You've been itching for this fight.
I'm not really. I mean, it's simple. It's not
No,
really.
no. Say you've been itching for the fight. I feel like I'm just
I'm in.
giving it like some. Chloe's been itching for this fight.
Yo, if they're gonna let rich billionaire super fans into the Basketball Hall of Fame, it's just like, oh, you're always courtside because you're rich and you love basketball. You're going into the Basketball Hall of Fame with these amazing players. Then I'm like, it wouldn't be the worst feeling to like loosen the reins and let players we love, like Jamal Crawford, in. That would be cool, or like Lou Williams. But like Brooke Lopez is a tier
No,
above these players.
no.
He's above.
Brooke Lopez is no Herb Smithstein, the
He's not.
the strip mall baron of Indianapolis.
You know.
Brooke could never.
Oh, here's the longest tenured owner of an NBA team. Someone you'll never know if you're standing next to at Chat Square. He's in the Basketball Hall of Fame. I'm like, Brooke Lopez, I love him for a specific reason, which is not only was he a star one way, he became, in my opinion, a defensive star, especially in a stretch 3-and-D era. He was a center that, like, Giannis kind of together, I think they formed like a really formidable duo for a large part of a decade and won a championship. So like the criteria is like,
Yeah, I hear that. Also, though, like,
can he just be a low tier Hall of Famer? Like, why
but
not?
was he ever as good as Mikey Foghorn Leghorn, who personally did the subprime crisis and was a partial owner of the Fort Wayne Texans?
Right? And okay, let's say the Basketball Hall of Fame has a percentage of their population, of the people invited in, reserved for the CEOs and the the people who kind of buy their way in to this whole thing. And then there's only allotted portion for actual players, right?
So I think, yeah, there is like a separate Hall of Fame for like the Foghorn Leghorn, like, yeah, most notable for like I say boy, and like,
Yeah.
all right, cool, you're in like that side of the hall, and then Brooke, you and Robin like visit on your way to Disneyland on the other side.
And then there's the Foghorn Van Horns, the players that deserve to be in there. That Brooke Lopez deserves to stand next to, man. Dude is awesome.
Keith Foghorn. Keith Foghorn Leghorn? He's all a famer. I say, boy.
But I mean, Lopez has had like a bad week. But prior to that, I thought he was having another inexplicably great defensive season, and he was hitting threes. And I thought he was a top 40, top 30 player again. And I was like, how many good seasons does this man have to be a fucking Hall of Famer?
Okay, I'll give you my quick, actual Brooke Lopez Hall of Fame take. I think you could make an argument based on some of the things you were saying. Like, he's had, we can say, 3 NBA lives, right? People say LeBron has 3 Hall of Fame careers throughout his, because of his longevity. Brooke Lopez, a lot of longevity, but he has not had 3 Hall of Fame careers, right? This is more of we're making a composite argument. Say, hey, he's a leading scorer in Nets history. That should say something. Hey, not a storied franchise, but here's a dumpling story. He is the leading scorer in Nets history. That's a thing. Like, okay. All-time leaders, shot blocking? Where is he? No, I'm saying let's like all-time NBA shot block. I hate to research during a show, but I'm saying where is he? Like, amongst active players, you know what he is? 1.
Is he?
First. Yep. First among all active players. He is first in rebounds. I don't know where he is on the all-time list. But
21 behind Theo Ratliff, but like Garnett.
The God.
He's above Pau Gasol, Elton Brand, and Jermaine O'Neal.
So if you're like, all right, so you got this guy who leading scorer in Nets history, top 20 in shot blocks.
21.
What?
Yeah.
No, but I was saying will be top 20.
Yeah, yep. Oh,
he's gonna catch He's gonna catch our boy Theo.
He's 5 behind Theo.
He's gonna catch Theo.
Yeah.
So by the time he's done, he might be top 15. Stuff starts getting like
he doesn't have to do
pretty
much.
close up there. So let's just say, and he plays 2 more years, whatever. I mean, he may not, but whatever. Okay, got a title, all-time Nets guy, top 15 shot blocking. Kind of was instrumental in reinventing the center position. Not to say that guys like Chet played like Brook Lopez, but those set of attributes of rim protector / 3-point shooter, he was kind of the guy who used that to win a championship. Not to say that someone like Chris Bosh didn't have a similar role, but that very distinct rim protector, floor spacer, unlocked Giannis. Coach Bud was a brilliant dude. That was what changed that trajectory of that franchise, and he won a title. The sticking point with Brook is he's just a one-time All-Star. That's the problem. Is that the way that we do bullshit criteria, which of course rewards the Celtics constantly. We talk about this in the book. The over-credentialization of Celtics players leads to guys like Brook Lopez having, say, 1 All-Star appearance. And we look back and we're like, wow, Tatum, 4-time All-NBA first team. He never deserved that.
Yeah, no.
It always should have been someone else, but he did it. And this isn't even a Tatum hate thing. I just mean he should not have been first-time All-NBA ever, probably. Yeah. And even if you wanted to give it to him once, you look, it's like, 4-time first-team All-NBA, 8-time All-Star. You're like, one of those years he wasn't even good.
Jaylen Brown, Hall of Famer, Finals MVP. You're like, but it didn't really have to go to him.
But this is what I mean. So like guys like Brook, like how do we remember the times when Brook Lopez maybe should have gotten an All-Star, but didn't because someone undeserving was named to that, or was named to like how many all defensive teams is he be on?
Only 2.
I mean,
his credentials are whack. They're whack.
This is what I mean, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this solely with him in mind, but it's like, well, they put Jason Tatum on an all defensive team. He's not a good defender. They just stuck him on there because they wanted him to be on one.
Right.
They put Marcus Smart on a bunch. They were building a Hall of Fame case for Marcus Smart.
Yeah.
Here, have a Hustle Award. Have another one. Yeah. Oh, here's a Defensive Player of the Year award. We're gonna just give you this award. Brook didn't have that benefit, and I'm just saying his case isn't strong because of it. If he'd won Defensive Player of the Year one season, if he was like 6-time all defensive team. But let me relent for a second. The issue with Brook is that really good in Milwaukee, not a superstar, and that's only been 6 years. That's kind of the problem there, Really good player, kind of spent a couple of years in the wilderness there with the Nets and the Lakers, and then if he was a stretch big defensive stalwart for like 15 years, I think you'd have a better case. The problem is it's only been 6, and he's hurt a lot.
I mean, since when do you have to be a superstar to get into the Basketball Hall of Fame, right? Like, is that a criteria? I mean, my demand comes with a caveat, which is like more players, please. We don't need any more Foghorn Leghorns. And I think inducting a player like Brook Lopez, statistically, who's that interesting, who's been around that long, who has a championship, is like not the fucking end of the world. Because like, while Vince Carter has many accolades and 1,000% deserves to get in, he doesn't have a championship. We're talking about Joakim Noah. Like, should Joakim Noah get into the Hall of Fame debate? I'm like, well, instead of debating that, if we're going to debate that, then Brook Lopez should be in. If we're debating Joakim Noah, who won a defensive player.
No, I hear you. I don't actually have a problem if Brook Lopez was in the Hall of Fame. I think you can make a reasonably intellectual, solid case for it, where you're like, all right, here are the components of his career. My thing is that he probably won't, because when he was a primary star, he wasn't that good. Like on the Nets, Sure. He was like a borderline all-star. And as a role player, he didn't quite do it long enough, and he didn't win, say, 3 titles. He only won 1.
Yeah.
That's. I feel like if he had, say, won a college title, if he'd been on 2 Olympic teams, as you said, his credentials for it aren't good. I think the intellectual argument for him is like kind of fine.
Yeah, before we end this perfect pod, the 2024 inductees: Simone Augustus, Dick Barrett, Chauncey Billups, Vince Carter, Doug Collins, Michael Cooper, Walter Davis, Harley Redden, Bo Ryan, Herb Simon, Charles Smith, Michelle Timms, Jerry West. Throw Brooke Lopez in there, man. Whatever.
John Wallace?
What, the ghost of Jeremy Lin? Am I reading this right? Like, oh my.
I mean, no, but what Herb Simon did for strip malls.
Lou Hudson in 2022. Tim Hardaway's in, man.
Lou Hudson? Oh, I thought he was the guy from Designing Women.
Oh, yo. Lou Carnesecca sweaters are coming back on my feed. Incredible. Shout out to
Lou Carnesecca, dead or alive?
Fully dead. Fully dead. Shout out to Chubb Rock.
It was a test, and you passed.
I mean, Lou Carnesecca kind of looked like he was dead when he was coaching. Like, that one is not. That doesn't count. Danny Ainge, alive or dead? He had a heart attack.
Well, you tried to.
I didn't try anything.
You tried to CEO him.
I'm not trying to be a handsome folk hero here.
I was in MSG. I was in MSG like a long time ago. I'd probably come straight from a VMA party.
I don't know what goes on there.
I remember leaving and getting an elevator, and it was just me, like the girl I was with at the time, and Lou Carnesecca. And I was just like,
was he dripped out?
Lou Carnesecca. And he's just like, he's wearing a sweater.
Did it have like a fly fisherman on it? Like full from top to bottom?
I don't know if he was like wearing low wear, like dipped in low.
Yeah.
But I just remember, I feel like I was just looked at, I was just like, you're Lou Carnesecca.
Incredible.
Like, he was decrepit and kind of looked back and like acknowledged that he was indeed Lou Carnesecca. That's my Lou Carnesecca story. Spent a brief moment in an elevator with Lou Carnesecca.
He wasn't talking to you like, Ben Dietrich, you don't know this, but you're not alive right now. You're in the elevator, going straight up to heaven, man. Woo! That was a tough one. Woo! You were on that elevator though.
You killed Lou Carnesecca.
I'm on the elevator going the other way.
You're hellbound as usual.
I'm hanging out with like 50 of the greatest unks of MSG history.
You know, it's almost as great, or even more perfect than the turn-up unction. Perfect pods.
Perfect pods.
Cookies.
I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies.